What's cracking, everybody? XehrFelrose here, bringing you some Pokemon Go Battle League content. Today we're looking at my top teams and picks in the Master Premier Cup, as well as just some general, information about this meta. As if you're not aware, Premier Cups typically are no legendaries, mythicals, or Ultra Beasts, and it's all just regular Pokemon, right? So this is basically Master League without the legendaries and etc. So we're basically looking at a meta that is going to be centralized, I think, at least as far as I can tell, around Gyarados, Annihilate, Florges, and honestly, Hisuian Avalugg is just so strong in this meta. It's down at 15 on the rankings, but in my opinion, it cores the best with the other two Pokemon that are the best things in this meta. So it should be very, well, I don't know if it'll be common, but if you are a 5-head trainer, have one ready, because it's gonna be really, really strong in this meta. But honestly, like Dragonite being number 1 with Florges, Gyarados, like those are probably going to be 3 of the most common Pokemon. And then we have Annihilate as a new addition to this meta, as well as some other cool picks. We've got Feraligatr that's recently been updated with that Shadow Claw. Skeledirge is now part of the meta. What else do you have? Rhyperior has come through with that Mud Slap update, and it has Breaking Swipe, so it's able to fight back against those dragon types. We've also got Golisopod. Gholdengo is something that is a little bit more difficult to get, but it's definitely worth having for this cup because it's just such a good closer. And honestly, one of my favorite things, I didn't put it on a team, but I really want to try it. Gallade, as well as, I don't know where it is on this list, but Greninja also could be a really fun pick. But we're also, Primarina also being super, super low, like number 58 on the rankings. But I'll bet you it's going to be more common than that because it's a very strong Gyarados counter. Obviously, other dragons as well, but it also counters Annihilate fairly well. So it's going to be very good against a lot of the top meta. So let's get into the first team here, as we've got it already on the screen. It's going to be Gyarados, Hisuian Avalugg, and Snorlax. So the dynamic of this particular team here is we're going to use Snorlax on the safe swap. If you hit a bad lead, like, for example, like a Magnezone. Magnezone would actually kind of trash this team, if I'm going to be completely honest. But if you hit another bad lead, like let's say you hit a Primarina, right, or something like that, you could probably go, there's a few things that core break this team just looking at it. But Gyarados Avalugg core is so strong, and Snorlax is just such a bulky, really safe Pokemon. Now, as far as the Snorlax goes, if you're going to play it, you need to either have a Shadow or a Best Buddied Snorlax, because if you do so, you're going to gain a breakpoint, which means that your fast moves do 1 additional damage, and with Lick being a 1-turn fast move, those extra 1-turn 1 damage points will add up very quickly, and that's in the Gyarados matchup. So if the opponent's Gyarados is Best Buddy, this is offset. But if the opponent does not have a Best Buddied Gyarados, your Best Buddied Snorlax or your Shadow Snorlax will do an extra 1 damage versus the Gyarados with every lick. So it's definitely to your benefit to have a Best Buddy or Shadow Snorlax for this team. It's straight A's on PvPoke, and I've got another straight A's teams coming up as well. Like I said here, Magnezone, very difficult for this team. So, I mean, I don't know how common Magnezone's going to be. It seems to be one of those things that kind of comes and goes depending on what's currently popular in the meta. But with as many people running Annihilate as there are, I don't know if that'll be very common, especially because Excadrill and Rhyperior are also very strong. But realistically, Primarina's not on the top list here, but I could see it being difficult if the opponent has a Waterfall Primarina. Otherwise, Magnezone is the only thing that core breaks this team. Nobody's running back Excalibur, and Gyarados has a decent matchup into Dragonite. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to lose every time you see a Dragonite. And then Milotic and Tyranitar are also kind of core breaky. Togekiss is a pain. But Snorlax has a really neutral matchup into the Togekiss, so I reckon that you could probably get very close to getting rid of a Togekiss if you saw one. But this team, to me, like, the list of things that beats this team is so small that it's so freaking strong. Like, you bait out Annihilate with the Snorlax, and I don't even know if Annihilate probably does win the matchup. But if you decide to run something like Earthquake or Outrage on your Snorlax, you could certainly flip an Annihilate counter swap as well. And then hopefully once the Annihilate's out of the way, the Avalugg can sweep. So let's take a look at our next team here. which is going to be a bit of an inverse to the team we just saw, but this is the other straight A's team that I found. I'm sure there might be more, and if you'll notice, it might be hard to see on the screen here, but Gyarados is running Outrage and Waterfall in this set, as if, in my opinion, if you're going to lead Gyarados, throw Dragon Breath on it. If you're going to safe swap it, use Waterfall and throw Outrage Aqua Tail on it, because I feel like that is the dynamic of Gyarados that you would want to use, because having that Outrage allows you to flip the bad dragons, and you're also drawing out the Dragonite or the Gyarados, right? So if you're able to hit with an Outrage, it very well might flip those bad matchups and give you switch advantage if you need it. Certainly not a bad way to go here. So again, straight A's on PV Poke. This team is incredibly stupid good. You have the debuff on the lead with Icy Wind. If you catch a good lead, the opponent doesn't have a super hard answer to your Avalugg. You could Icy Wind and dip and get a very nice advantage that way. There's nothing that beats this entire team. Again, like I said though, Magnezone could be an issue, but at least Annihilate is an answer to it, right? So like if you catch a Magnezone lead like the last team, it's a pain, but it's not unwinnable depending on what could be in the back. You want to let Annihilate try to sweep in that situation. A Feraligatr, I'm not really sure. I mean, I guess it's because Waterfall Gyarados and it has to land the Outrage, so that might be why Feraligatr loses. But if you wanted to, you could definitely run Dragon Breath if you have a lot of issues with Feraligatr, which is very possible to be common in this meta because of how the recent update. There might be, you know, plenty of people out there with them. But the list of things that core break this team are very uncommon. You're not going to see a whole lot of Golissopods. I think Haxorus probably gets shunned out of the meta to a degree here. And even then, you know, Gyarados doesn't have a terrible matchup into it regardless. Poliwrath could also be something that might be an issue. But again, if you want to, like if these things become common, just run Dragon Breath on the Gyarados and those kind of become non-issues at all. So, but yeah, another very strong team, able to really conquer a lot of this Master Premier meta. So now that we've gone through the two like triple A team or quadruple A teams, we're gonna take a look at three other teams that I think are a little bit less, you know, meta slavey, but look really strong. So this team here is exactly what I was talking about if you want to be able to core break a couple of teams here. So the Dragonite somehow is able to beat Gyarados despite taking super effective fast moves. I think it's just because the Dragon Claw is that much more consistent over, you know, and you outpace because of the crunches being the only move that the Gyarados can throw to hit Dragonite for anything other than not very effective damage. Gholdengo, you know, you've got a very strong core with Dragon and Steel in this meta. There are definitely things that are able to break it, but the fact that Gholdengo has nukes means that you're probably going to be using it in the form of a sweeper. So you're trying to use Golissopod here on your save swap to try and either, you know, draw out the Gyarados, right? Because, you know, typically Gholdengo does not really appreciate water types because they're typically anti-steel. I know the move set from Gholdengo is neutral, but because of the fact that Gyarados has that crunch typically, makes it a very bad matchup for Gholdengo. And then there's other things too that you would be able to draw out, or just use Golissopod as just a safe swap in general. And you really don't have a whole lot of bad matchups here. Like this team has a lot of good coverage on this meta. Snorlax would be one of the main things the Golissopod would probably want to bait out here, especially because being a ghost type, Gholdengo is something that it just doesn't do too super well into the Snorlaxes. And then we've got, you know, really like, again, another team that doesn't really have a whole lot of things that just straight beat the whole team, right? Everything has play here. You've got play with, you know, literally into everything in this meta. Like something on this team will do well into something. So Dragonite, honestly, as long as you don't catch a fairy lead and then get like destroyed, I don't even know what genuinely, like, other than Gyarados, I don't even know what genuinely just destroys the Golissopod. I mean, I guess like things that resist Shadow Claw, and then like Hydreigon is like one of those things. I guess so. Some dragons could certainly be a problem, but then like your Dragonite just farms those down, and then you've got energy. So that's why Golissopod will like be able to bring out those things that will be able to give your Dragonite some farm, and then you're just trying to use the shields to sweep with your Gholdengo. So let's take a look at the other team here. We've got here number 4. And this is going to be Rhyperior Double Fairy. Now, you're looking at me weird. I know. But think about it this way, okay? Now, Primarina is one of the strongest answers in this entire meta to Gyarados. And I have it currently running Waterfall. You could certainly throw Charm on it if you want to. Both of them are fine. But you've basically got a very, very hard answer to Steel types with coverage into the Dragons, as well as coverage into Gyarados. You know, having that Rock Wrecker is very helpful. Now, usually you'd want to use Prima as your safe swap. That's why I have Waterfall on it, because it lets it get to those moves quicker. But you certainly could, use your Florges if you want to. Also, this team has a dynamic around Skeledirge as well, which I certainly expect to see a few of these. So this team has, pretty good coverage rankings. It's not in the straight A's by any means. And this I feel like is a little bit more of a meta call sort of team, where if the Double Fairy really starts to work out, this really does well into things like Annihilate in the back. You just counter swap in, Florges and just go to town, right? You get to the moves faster than they do because you have the Disarming Voice. And if they're running Shadow Ball, right, you can just shield once, get a ton of energy, as long as the lead isn't like a Steel type that just completely walls Florges. But there are some things on this team, or against this team, that do somewhat well here, right? We're going to have things like Feraligatr, Ursaluna, Golisopod, and Polion. Those are, I'm not expecting to see, a whole ton of those. Apparently also Ferrothorn is a thing in the Master Premier meta. I don't think we're going to see a single Ferrothorn in this whole meta. But if you do, then I salute you, trainer, for that spicy pick. But I would be the most worried about something like Feraligatr and maybe Golisopod, but at the same time, right, like, and Empoleon would be something I might expect to see in this meta as well. Those three things, Ursaluna's certainly a pick here, but like, you have play into all of those things with the back line, and your energy from Rhyperior from a farm down perspective can hit all of those things in the face, except for Empoleon, really. Empoleon would, I guess, be the biggest core breaker of this team, because it really has, put this amazing play into everything. I imagine if you see an Empoleon, you probably just try to like farm it down with Mud Slaps or something. But anyway, so this is a good Double Fairy team featuring Rhyperior. So let's take a look at the last team here with my boy Skeledirge. So Skeledirge, if you have one, maxed out to level 50. It's not bad in this meta. Its coverage is a spectacular thing. Obviously, you do have to worry about the water types. There are quite a few new water types that we've already kind of talked about. Primarina and Gyarados being two of them. Now, if Primarina's running Charm, your Skeledirge goes off and just destroys it. But if they're running Waterfall, a bit more of a problem. Same with Gyarados. It's not a bad matchup with Dragon Breath, but they do outpace to that first move. And then, it's just a bad time. So you would want to come back into a water type matchup with energy. And then something else that Skeledirge doesn't really appreciate too much is dragons, because things that resist that incinerate damage in a straight matchup, right? So if you encounter, a Gyarados or a Dragonite, you'd want to probably safe swap into the Gyarados yourself. And this one is running Dragon Breath instead, because you want to have something in the lead, or you want to have something in the back that counters those, bad matchups, right? If you swap out of Skeledirge into your Gyarados versus a Dragonite lead, they're probably going to swap out into something else, because they very likely want to keep that alignment with the Skeledirge, and that gives you an opportunity to either flip switch, or you can farm down whatever they bring in. Maybe they bring in a Magnezone, for example. You could farm down and get a Disarming Voice or two ready to go, and then you can hit that Dragonite right in the face where it hurts, that Fairy type coverage. So that's kind of the whole point here. And then we're using Charm Prima here as our closer, because it is the stronger move set into other water types and the fairies as well. And this entire team just dunks on Annihilate. So if you see a lot of Annihilate, this is not a bad team to go with here. So almost straight A's on this team as well. Very good coverage into the meta. And really what we have to worry about with this team the most is the Hisuian Avalugg. And look, if Arcanine could be good in this meta, I'm down. I have one sort of built. I think I'm missing some XLs, but I know I remember running Arcanine in Master League Premier, and it's a lot of fun. So I guess if you land, I think the Arcanine into Skeledirge is, you basically land the Psychic Fangs and then the Wild Charge. I'm pretty sure it's one of those. But So Ursaluna and Snorlax could be a problem for this team on paper, right? But like as with anything in a straight matchup, it doesn't necessarily mean that's how the game is going to go. You know, we just have the ability to, you know, add energy or extra, you know, turns of advantage. So that doesn't necessarily mean that this is how every single battle is going to go. Because I can tell you right now that if your Prima comes in and it's got 2 shields versus maybe the opponent's only got 1, 2 shield charm is a strat. That's how it works. So this team honestly looks really good into this meta. So you know, if you guys are seeing a lot of Annihilate, I really, you know, recommend giving it a try. It seemed really good. So that's gonna do it for today's video. Appreciate y'all for watching these videos. The amount of support we've been getting on the streams as well lately has been incredible. I'm recording this on Sunday morning as I woke up earlier than Jesus himself. So I figured I may not have hit legend yet on the stream. We'll see. But either way, I will be looking to try out some Master Premier on stream later today as you're getting this video on Friday. So look forward to the Master Premier Cup. I'm hoping it's going to be fun. As before, it was just a bunch of RPS. I feel like all the extra things that have been added to the meta are going to make it a little bit more bearable. So that's going to do it for me for today, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Check you later. Catch you in the next one. Bye-bye.